Here in the United States, when the words the Union are used, we most commonly think of the United States during the Civil War. However, throughout the world and throughout history, there have existed many different unions. One of the least thought of unions, perhaps, is the union that forms the core of the United Kingdom, that union being Great Britain. So, let us take a look at this union, specifically how it formed. The Acts of Union were passed by the Scottish and English parliaments back in 1707. This led to the official creation of Great Britain. But what led to the creation of this union? Why did Scotland and England join together? Well, that can be answered by first looking back to Queen Elizabeth. No, not that Queen Elizabeth, this Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I. Queen Elizabeth I was Queen of England and Ireland from 1558 to 1603. She was the final Tudor monarch of England, and it wasn't because there was a loss of war or anything, it was because she had no kids since she didn't marry. This left England with the daunting task of finding a new monarch, and the man they found was King James VI of Scotland. And so, King James VI of Scotland became King James I of England. Simple, that's the end, right? Wrong, as you may have noted. You may now be asking, why is this happening in the 1600s when the Acts of Union were passed in 1707? Well, that's because this first union was simply a personal union. What does that mean? That means that the entire basis of the union was surrounding the fact that the monarch sitting on the throne was the monarch sitting on the throne of all the realms within the union. Under these circumstances, the boundaries, laws, and interests of each constituent nation remain as they originally were. Whereas in a real union, they would have far more legal and boundary-related cohesion, as well as having the same overall interests. So, now let's get into the reasons why the Acts of Union were passed in 1707. If you know a good deal about history, you might know that some important things happened in between King James's rule and the passage of the Acts of Union. The most important thing was that the English Civil War happened. As a result of the English Civil War, the monarchy was abolished, and Scotland was effectively subjugated by Oliver Cromwell's English troops, leading to an expensive period of military occupation and rule. By the time King Charles II was restored to the throne in the period known as the Restoration, appeal for a union among most people was simply very low due to the association of it with the bad times of the military occupations. After Charles II died, he was succeeded by his brother King James II and VII. But there was a problem with him. He was Catholic, and that was a big no-no. So, one thing led to another, and we got the Glorious Revolution, in which James was dethroned and replaced by his daughter, Mary, and her husband William. Despite both Mary and William being supportive of the idea of a union, there was still a lack of support in both the Scottish and English parliaments. It wouldn't be until the reign of Mary's sister, Queen Anne, that the Acts of Union would finally be passed. This was partially because during this period, other European countries were beginning to become more and more centralized. And so more of the upper echelons of society in England and Scotland thought it would be wise to go along with the trend. So, along with Queen Anne's compulsion, representatives of Scotland and England met to discuss the union, and the Scottish and English parliaments would go on to finally pass the 1707 Acts of Union, formally creating Great Britain.